A massive earthquake has hit Lego City, but thankfully, before that happened, I was able to do one final tour before the earthquake at the end of the video. There is so much to see in my 1920s Lego City, and we're actually going to start over here on the sidewalks. Now, a lot of these minifigures on the sidewalks are actually custom made. I custom printed these stickers and attached them onto the torsos, but you can barely tell, and I think it looks really nice, especially because LEGO does not make very many 1920s LEGO minifigures. Here's another one farther down the sidewalk in the light blue dress. All these minifigure torsos just came off Lego.com, and then the stickers I printed from online, and it just makes the minifigures look a lot more realistic. And there, just past the lady, you had the prisoner work crew with the police officer watching over them. Now, over on the street, you'll see a car, which is supposed to be a Model T, but unfortunately, I'm not very good at making Lego cars, so if you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments below. Also, I do want to make other types of brands, so let me know which cars you want to see in my next 1920s Lego City. Oh, here we can see that work crew again. Sorry, I have to adjust my camera here. But there's a bunch of prisoners with shovels fixing a line with a police officer watching them. Here's a fancy carriage with a nice gentleman in the back and a nice driver in the front. Then we also have a farmer and his wife on a bale of hay, or on lots of bales of hay rather, who are bringing hay to the city. Now, they could be going to the chicken coop on Case's Diner, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Now we're moving to further down the sidewalk. There's some more custom minifigures and also this really cool flower cart that I made. It's very lively, full of color, and I really think it looks quite nice. There is an awning, which is kind of pointless because flowers do like water, but I thought it'd add a nice little touch to the overall feel of the cart. And that lady who is the flower salesman is actually a custom printed minifigure torso. Let me walk around here and show you. And directly to the left of the flower cart is a barber giving a guy a haircut and a very enthusiastic worker who is leaving the Model T factory. We also have Henry Jones Sr. here behind Case's Diner, who is looking for the Holy Grail with his dog. As we walk back out of the alley, you'll notice the ladder to the top of Case's Diner with the chickens, but also a lost dog poster and a vote no to liquor poster. There's also a fire hookup access and a trash can. Now, in the front of Case's Diner, let me swivel the camera around. Chef Case is buying produce from the farmer. And further down the sidewalk, a police officer is dumping contraband beer down the drain. Now, he has to make sure it's beer, so he's giving it a taste test, which was a funny detail I thought to add because police like beer just as much as anyone else in the 1920s. Now, coming around the edge of the other apartment complex, further down the sidewalk, we see a cherry farmer on his way to the market, which is somewhere over here. And then we also see a street sweeper as well as some guys moving the building. There are workers leaving the skyscraper to go home for the day, and also workers carrying rivet guns and lunch pails going towards the skyscraper. And there's even Dr. Strange there. Now, another cool thing are these boys going to play baseball. There's a baseball mitt, which can be inserted in place of a minifigure arm, and there's also a cool baseball bat, which was a very popular sport back in the 1920s and still to this day. Now, on the other side of the street, we have a large circus elephant, which a circus clown is leading back to its home. I especially like this little baby elephant, which was $5, and it was a lot of money, except for the large mom elephant is actually $30, so I thought the baby made more sense rather than buying two large elephants. Now, unfortunately, the street sweeper is not so excited to be cleaning up all the elephant excrement, but thankfully, there's a whole army of street sweepers coming down the street right there. Now, there's also a guy who has climbed a pole to sit on top. His name is Elvin, and this was a popular form of advertisement and fun back in the 1920s. There's also a guy with a guitar who is trying to earn some money and also keeping Elvin company by playing beautiful music. And then back over in the corner, there's a 1920s gas pump, which was actually just commonly right on the street back in those days. And it's pretty realistic if you look one up online. I also made a pipe organ, which if you turn this crank on the side, let me find it. Oops, on the other side here. But if you turn this crank, the bird on top actually moves. Now, I also wanted that turning crank to clash those cymbals in the front, but unfortunately, I never got around to it. Now, let me shift around the edge of the table to show you the other side. And there's a very large alleyway back behind all these buildings, so I want to make sure to show you it. But anyway, continuing down the sidewalk this way, the police have entered the hotel there. There's even a police car here There's a Tommy gun sticking out the front. There's somewhere to put criminals in the back. And I thought it was kind of cool to have a bulkier Model T for the police car. And he's closely following this contraband cart. There's dynamite and knives and crowbars, as well as alcohol underneath that Lego cape. Here are some more custom printed minifigure torsos. For example, this light purple girl right here has a nice frilly dress, and I think it looks really cool for the 1920s city, as I said before. Just past the fire station, I now move my camera to the front, is a milk cart. Now, milk carts are very common in the 1920s to bring you fresh milk every morning, so I added one into my city. And then there's also the fire cart, which has brought water and a fireman to put out the donut shop fire. There's also a statue of a Navy sailor, which I hope to bring to my 1920s harbor city. And then if we look farther down the wall in the donut shop, there's some ads, one for Coca-Cola and another one for Mackinac Island, which is a very popular tourist destination even today, but especially back in the 1920s. Now, back in the front of the sidewalk area, we have a 1920s flapper with a customized torso right here, and then also two other ladies behind her and a guy on the police station, which also have custom torsos. Now, while I was printing those custom torsos, I also printed this little looking for work sign, which I thought would be kind of perfect for this minifigure because it looks like he has torn clothes and could use a good job. Just past the donut shop fire is a silent movie taking place, so I added a little video camera with a director and also the scene, which is a thief being caught red-handed by the sheriff. Further down the sidewalk, there's just a few more minifigures, a lot of whom are custom, and then I also added another gas pump, as well as this custom minifigure, which I really like because he has a pale green suit, and Lego doesn't make any pale green suits. Back behind the bank, we have a Nerf gun war between the Italian Mafia and the Irish Mob. The Irish Mob is right here behind the boxes, and then the Italian Mafia is right there and there. Now, I also added a little bit of greenery back here, right between the cobblestones or road area, and then also behind the police station to give this area more life. Oh, here's a guy with a machete who just is randomly trying to enter into the war, but he's on neither side and just likes to cause chaos with his meat cleaver. Back behind a police station, the cop is being bribed as other police are chasing criminals. But anyway, this German Shepherd and police officer are getting bribed with $100, even though they're completely missing the pyromaniac who started the donut shop fire. To the left of all of that is another homeless encampment because the Great Depression was happening in the late 1920s, well, October 1929, but still I wanted to add some homeless people among the boxes and random stuff. Here's some more greenery to liven things up, and then there's also a trade deal going on between the Italian Mafia and the Irish Mob, so apparently they aren't such big enemies after all. Now, right to the left of the alleyway is the marketplace. I added a fish vendor, some sailors who are on leave right now walking around, and those are custom printed torsos as well. And then back here is a little beer stand. Well, wait, actually it's prohibition, so it's not beer, so we'll just say that that's grape juice or something. Eventually, this fisherman will make his way into my 1920s harbor as an actual fisherman. And then over here, there is a cat being rescued out of the tree. Now we move to the inside of the buildings. The Model T factory right here is definitely the biggest interior, and it has a beautiful outer facade with nice curved windows using those big arches, as well as masonry bricks and 1x2x2 windows. It uses these 2x3 shield pieces for outer facade, but also to keep the windows on the roof. One thing that I like about those windows, it allows a lot of light into this room. Now, of course, this is a cross section so that I can see into the building, but also to save bricks. But still, it adds a lot of light, which I like. Over in the corner, we have Henry Ford's office. He's being shown plans for a new Model T modification, and even that is cross section, so it looks like his desk is floating. But back over in this corner, let me get there, is the secretary's desks. Here's a secretary going to get some coffee, and then the rest of the upper floor is all different assorted pieces so that it can be craned down into the main area, which is where the actual Model Ts are built on the assembly line, which was popularized by the Model T. I added a whole bunch of workers working, and then the assembly line shoves the Model Ts out these doors right here. Now, one thing about these doors is that those 4x4 round plate pieces are kind of shoved into those curved pieces using some bent 1x1 snot bricks. Now, I say bent because they're kind of, you can see a little bit twisted there, but unfortunately I had to do that even though it puts stress on the bricks because from the front, that's the only way to cover up that arch. To the left of the Model T factory is Case's Diner. Here you can see the chicken coop on the roof. I added also a water tank back there for cooking, and if you look through the top of the chicken coop, you can see where they roost. There's also some hay bales, some flowers, and other things for the chickens to eat. Hopefully, there's also a lot of bugs because there's not much grass. But there's a ladder, and now let me show you the inside of Case's Diner, which, if I take off the roof here, oh, here's Henry Jones Sr. again. For some reason, I decided to show him twice in my videos. But anyway, there's him in search of the Holy Grail, as you heard of before. But anyway, if I take off the roof here, you can see inside where there's a whole bunch of different tables and chairs and a nice checkered floor. Now, the checkered floor does make your eyes go a little bit crazy, so let's quickly remove it. And then we can see another checkered floor where Chef Case's wife is cooking up some eggs for breakfast. There's also some pans on the wall, 2 sinks, a fridge, and then a little walk-in area, and then the stairs to go upstairs. To the left of Case's Diner is the beautiful construction site where a skyscraper is being built. Now, for the front of this skyscraper, the bottom 2 floors, or really bottom lobby, is still being used, and I really like how I use tall, narrow windows to make the building look more tall. I know that seems kind of funny, but when you use skinnier windows, it makes the whole building look a lot taller. Now, if I could just untangle my hand and camera from the telephone wires, I could show you the back of the lobby. So sorry, one moment, please. But anyway, the back of the lobby also looks very beautiful. I went with different colored green for the carpeting, which makes it look very 1920s-esque. There's also a shoeshine boy, a piano, a nice globe fountain in the middle, and also 2 ladies who are just going from upstairs. Now, you might notice upstairs just has a door which really goes into nothing. But that's because in my next Lego City, I'm going to be building another tall skyscraper, which is already finished, and be putting it right next to the skyscraper that's being constructed. The rest of the lobby is also very beautiful. There's some navy couches to sit and enjoy the scenery. There's also a black staircase railing, which might soon change to gold as soon as I can buy more gold pieces. Now, just above the skyscraper lobby, the skyscraper is actually being built. There are riveters. One's holding the rivet right there, and then the other guy has a rivet gun, which is attaching the rivet into place. Now, the rivet gun is made by using one of those black eyeglass pieces, and then a 1x1 round plate with a handle on it, and then a Star Wars blaster, but I think it looks really good, and would probably be slightly bigger than a normal rivet gun would be, but anyway, I thought I'd still use it just because people can always tell what it is. Now, further up is one of the rivet catchers. They basically catch the hot blazing rivet in a pail, then use their wrench to take the rivet out and toss it up to the next guy or another rivet team. So for example, he'd throw it to this guy right here, who would then hold it for the rivet gun to attach it to the steel poles. Another cool thing that I added is the kitchen, which is way up on top of the skyscraper. Now, this was done so that the workers didn't have to walk all the way down to the bottom or ride the crane to the bottom just to get lunch, and they could simply buy the lunch from the cafeteria up here. Now, this guy looks a little seasick, or rather height sick, and he's not having a good time, but the other guy is enjoying some lunch. There's ketchup and mustard, there's some spices on the wall, there's even a sink and a stove. There you can see a little bit of a better view from all the spices that the chef is using, and I think it's a really cool idea and adds some life further up on the skyscraper. Now, these guys brought their own lunch from home, some bread, baguettes, apples, and I recreated that famous picture of men having lunch on top of a skyscraper, so I thought that was a funny addition. There is also a working crane on top of the skyscraper, which can actually be raised and lowered to bring those steel beams up, but this guy's hand is actually holding it in place because those gears are not strong enough to hold the tension, so I might have to fix it in the future, but it can still swivel and it looks pretty realistic, so that's why I like it. So that's the skyscraper, and I think it looks really nice, and I'm excited for that other skyscraper, which will be right to the left. Oh, one more thing I forgot to show you is the guy who is heating up the rivets so that they can be blazing hot and attached on with a rivet gun, and he's right here. All those little blazing rivets I added are just 1x1 plates. And then another funny thing that I added is this phonogram right here. Now, this is definitely not realistic, but it actually spins, which is realistic. But the not realistic part is that they probably would not have used this on the job site, but I thought it'd be funny kind of like a modern day radio to give these guys something to listen to while they work. Now, just to the right of the skyscraper is a lady hanging up some clothes. She has another custom torso. And then there's also a bunch of guys moving the building. I already showed you it on the front, but here it is from the back. There's jacks, and they're using those logs to be able to move the building, which was very common to make way for larger skyscrapers. The next building is the Mafia apartment and the pizzeria and the regular apartment buildings and the brewery and the speakeasy. So a whole bunch of buildings in one. But to start, here's a custom billboard that I printed for some coffee. And then here's Indiana Jones, who is getting pushed to the edge of the building, and his whip has fallen into the balcony bushes below. There's also a bunch of barrels, a large water tower, and that water tower is needed because the second story down right here is where the illegal brewery is going on, so they need lots of water. And then there's a smaller water for the apartment side of things. On the outside of the apartment building, I added a little baby cage. Now, YouTube, this is not bad. This was actually common in the 1920s, where babies needed some fresh air, so they would hang them out the window on makeshift balconies that hung off the window. So that was just a fun detail that I added. So here's another close-up of that baby hanging off the balcony, and as we'll see in a moment on the inside, the mom is going to bring him a little bottle. Let me just walk around the table and I'll be able to take off the top of the left side. Now, the left side is the Mafia's apartment. This is where the Mafia main base is, and this is actually the Italian Mafia because they have a pizzeria that I'll be showing you in a moment. There's some guns on the wall, there's some loot that they have. There's also a guy right here with a meat cleaver and a pistol. He's part of the Italian Mafia, and he kind of looks Italian, I don't know. But that little secret passageway right there actually leads to the next side over, which is the head boss's office. Now, his office is kind of barely furnished. There's his girlfriend who is trying to get some sticks of dynamite and a wanted poster on the wall because he was in need of a girlfriend as of a little bit ago. Here's a fireplace, there's a shovel, some logs. Now, this little hole in the ground is the only way to get down into the brewery. Other than that, sorry, the camera's having some problems. But other than that, there's no way for anybody to reach the brewery below because they want it to remain hidden, of course. Now, the only way to get into the office is to go through this area where there's a lot of guards. And the only way to get through there is to climb up the stairs on the left side of the building. Now, in the brewery, there's a whole bunch of different barrels for making beer. There's this interesting distillery thing. Sorry, my camera's having problems again. But anyway, another cool thing is this guy cooking up a new brew. There's a sink on the right. And then I also used a little ice cream piece for the foaming beer coming out of the main barrel there. Now, right underneath the brewery that I was talking about earlier is the Italian pizzeria. Now, we all know that Mafia pizzerias serve very delicious pizza, and so I thought it'd be a good front for the brewery right above. There's a nice stone oven with an oar, which I'm using to be the pizza grabber, and then there's even a guy purchasing some pizza right there. Now, underneath the Mafia's apartment is a regular apartment. Now, this is where that baby is being hung out the window, and there's the mom bringing her a bottle. But there's simply a bed, some dishes, a fridge, a chair and table, a stove, a teapot, a cup, and now I've pretty much named everything. Oh, there's an apple on the ground too. But other than that, now underneath that, there's another apartment, and this is another regular apartment, not a Mafia apartment. There's an old grandma who just woke up. She's still in her pajamas. There's some cups and dishes, and now this one actually has a bathroom and a shower. Oh, and there's even a skeleton in her closet. I had kind of forgotten that I did that joke before. But anyways, there's a nice fridge there, and it's just a regular apartment. It's a little small. There's just one little small hallway there, but that's okay. And that door leads downstairs to the outside. Now, underneath this apartment, there's a cigar shop and the Speakeasy, but I'll show you how to get there in a moment. The cigar shop is what you can see from the road. There's a nice, or kind of a gross looking rug, which is made out of all different green plates. But the cool thing about this is if you slide back the bookshelf there, you can actually access the Speakeasy. Now, the Speakeasy is pretty realistic. There's beer and wine and whiskey and all sorts of alcoholic beverages, which were illegal back in the day. But one funny thing is that Loki is trying to buy the one ring of power from a drunk guy who somehow got it. Maybe he somehow found it from Mount Doom. I have no idea. Anyway, there's some whiskey bottles and some whiskey cups. beer along the wall, and yeah, it looks like a nice mafia operation, especially because beer was illegal back in the day. So as I was explaining before, this side is the Italian Mafia because of that pizzeria, and then the Irish mob has their headquarters in the penthouse on top of the hotel. So to start, on the roof of the hotel is a nice garden. They're growing all sorts of things that are hard to find in the city, and there's even a little garden shed up top, which is made of all different types of boards. There's also a water tank there, and yeah, it's pretty standard. But underneath is where the Irish mob's headquarters is. So if I just take off the roof here, I'm going to be setting it to the side. Don't, oh, here's one cool thing. There's another billboard, two billboards actually, one for radio and one for sincerity crackers, which were both common in the 1920s, and actually real billboards that I changed into be Lego billboards. And now we can take a better look at the Irish mob's headquarters. Here's a guy drinking some beer while he counts up the money. There's some dynamite, some guns, some jewels, and there's actually a guy right here which has a gun, a Nerf gun, poking out the window, guarding the street from anybody entering. Maybe he's trying to guard against the Italian Mafia right across the street. And I also thought it'd be kind of funny to have a pizza being delivered from the Italian Mafia, showing that maybe they're actually not such rivals after all. So that's why I thought it'd be funny, oh, sorry, my camera's having problems again, to have the Italian Mafia be delivering pizza to the Irish mob from their pizzeria across the street. This little hatch is the rooftop access, but if we go down the stairs and lift off the top floor, let's set it to the side, we can see that this is where the normal hotel rooms are. One with a double bed, one with a single bed. And another cool thing is that they have little lamps on their side tables. Now, there's even a bathroom with a hot and cold water, except for there's a guard guarding the stairs with a Tommy gun, so maybe it's not such a normal hotel after all. But anyways, if you do want to pretend it's normal, you can sit and read a book from this bookshelf right here. There's some walking sticks and a coat rack, as well as a nice little couch to enjoy. Now, there's stairs going down one more floor to the ground level where, after setting it aside again, we can see that the police have gotten tipped off that the Irish mob might be living upstairs in the penthouse. So they've sent their detective to sniff things out. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then there's also an indoor pool. Now, indoor pools were pretty rare, but the Irish mob can afford it, so I thought that'd be fun to add. Now, just to the left of the hotel is the fire station. The fire station, I was going to add another story, I just never got around to it, but it's still cool. On top, there's a bunch of boxes and also some pigeons, which the kids are enjoying raising. Sometimes pigeons would be raced or just played with for fun. Now, one cool thing is that you'll notice that all of these rooftops are connected. So there's a board to walk across there, then you go up these ladders here. Oh, there's a police chase happening, which I'll show you in a second. But anyway, you can go down the stairs on the left side, or rather on the right, and then finally down past the apartment to the ground. So that's how you get over to the hotel, and all of these buildings are connected, which was common in the 1920s. Now, if we lift off the clock tower and look inside, oh, wait a second, there's two strings going down the side of the building because a window washer is washing the buildings, so let me pop those off. This is not Lego string, but it's just regular string, and I thought it'd be fun to actually be holding the window washer up. But anyway, now, if we look inside and lift the top off, we'll see that in the top story, there's a whole bunch of different beds and some showers and some toilets. Now, don't worry because the glass here is actually one-way glass. Same thing with the doors, so there's still a lot of privacy. But I thought I'd add some drains over there, similar to the ground floor, so that the wet firefighters from fighting fires and being near smoke and water and everything can just drip down into those drains. Now, there's even drains on the floor of the stairs to get more grip. But if we look at the second story, we'll see that there is, oh, there's the window washer hovering over nothing, but there's a pool table, there's a whole kitchen, there's the fire pole there to go down the stairs, and you can actually physically go down if you wanted to. There's a stove, there's a fridge, there's the office of the fire chief, and now if we look at the basement level, we can see those grill pieces that I was talking about, where the fire wagon, which currently is fighting that fire at the bagel shop, can be parked and let the water and hoses drain out over those drains there. Now, also, there's some equipment. I forgot to change it to 1920s equipment, so it's a little bit modern, but that's okay. Now, just to the left of the fire station is the police station. The fire is not part of the set, and I thought I'd kind of make it a little bit unique by adding some fire there. There's also that scene from earlier that I showed you where some cops are chasing a thief over the top of the police station. But on the inside, I didn't really modify anything. There's an interrogation room there. There's a toilet. toilet. On the second story right here, there is a little apartment above the donut shop, and there's also a camera area and a map which is outlining clues. There you can see the camera a little bit better where you can stand in front of that white sheet to get your mugshot taken. Sorry, I'm kind of having to walk around the edge of the table because I don't know where to put this police station. I guess I'll put it on the ground here. Sorry, now you get a close-up of my missing trim. Anyways, if we take off this level and also get a better view of the ground there, you can see the jail cell right here and also the main lobby of the police station. I really like how the police station looks. There's a phone, there's a water jug there, a gun and radio on the wall, and I think it is a very cool set, and that's why I keep it in my city as the only Lego set in my entire city. Now, just to the left of the police station is the bank. John Dillinger is unfortunately robbing the bank through the skylight, but one cool thing about the skylight is that you can actually see that it sheds light on all the different floors, all the way down to the main lobby area. Now you can kind of see desks there and then all the other railings, and that's because if we lift off the top here, it looks like we're going to have to put things on the floor again. But anyway, you can see that down all the way to the lobby is open, which allows natural light all the way to the main lobby. You can see that there's some bankers working on evaluating money, and there's also the main accountant or main banker's desk right in the corner there. Sorry, let me just put something on the ground here. Now, if we lift off the next floor, there are more accountants and bankers working at their desks. One's evaluating a gold bar, and there is a painter painting on a big canvas, and yes, that's Professor Snape. I made that canvas by using 1x5x6 panel pieces, so it gives it a nice smooth finish, and then in the corner there's a nice place to take a break, and here's a better close-up image of those desks. Now, I really like how I used a lot of gold in the main lobby. Let me put this on the ground here and I'll show you. But anyway, if I lift off this floor here, you can see that there's a whole bunch of gold bar pieces. Those are 1x2 modified plates. And then there's also a picture of the main banker or the founder of the bank on the wall. Now, one cool thing here is that you can actually access the vault by using these two doors. Sorry, vault, not vault, but those doors allow you to exit and enter onto this side, and then you can walk up the stairs to the next floor. Now, it looks like one of those 3x4 minifigure stand pieces fell off, so it's perfect as I can show you. Let me just attach it here. But anyway, because it's a 3x4 piece, it allows the counter to be on both sides, which makes it a lot easier to slide money across so that the people can get their money and gold bars out of the bank. Now, each side has different desks for counting the money and gold bars, and there are 6 different areas for 6 different bank tellers. Now, on the right side of the bank is the fire escape. You can see that it starts right there, and you can actually, let me put these levels back on for you so you can get a better idea of how it looks. But anyway, sorry, now we get a close-up of the guy on the street, but here is the last story. And then you can see if I come around the edge that, whoa, sorry for the camera there. But anyway, you can see that the fire escape starts from the very top and goes all the way down to the bottom. Now, this is not very realistic because normally it'd be all on one side, but still I thought it was cool. And thankfully, that's the end of the tour because the earthquake is starting. Definitely not me shaking the table, and it's going to unfortunately destroy the entire city. Surprisingly, the Model T factory as well as the fire station didn't really collapse, but everything else pretty much did. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to show you the 1920s harbor that I'm building right after I clean up this 1920s city.